Good evening, Mayor, Pro Tem Mayor, and Council. I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage than my peers because they have established budgets, or established departments with established and existing budgets. Tonight, I am asking for staffing before you actually have seen my department's requested budget. So it's a little bit out of sorts, if you will. Because of that, I'm going to give you a brief description or an introduction of where I envision taking the Economic Development Department, and that will hopefully provide some insight into my staffing request this evening. As you know, the purpose of Economic Development Department is to provide and increase the economy of a city. This can be done through sales taxes, property taxes, and the opportunities of new money. New money is created when a manufacturing of a new item or product is originated in the city, thus creating the opportunity for people to purchase it, and that's creating new money for a city. Like I said, it can be done through manufacturing new items. It can also be done by adding value to an existing commodity. Strengthening our local economy means having a diverse economic portfolio. This means working within several different industries. That would include retail, commercial office, tourism, and also manufacturing. Job creation is only one facet of what my department needs to do. We also need to create new money opportunities, as I mentioned, as well as placemaking opportunities. These are this is the ability to have people that wants to visit our city have opportunities to come and visit and see these placemaking areas. The key points for the Economic Development Department are one, stabilizing the economic base. This is ensuring that the existing companies that are here are stable and healthy. Two is taking advantage of internal opportunities. This means that if there's existing companies that want to grow, we provide them with all the means and the ability to grow within the city. Three would also be business attraction. That's our ability to go out and attract businesses to our wonderful city. Four would be creating placemaking opportunities, as I mentioned before. And then five is executing the City Council's goals for rebranding, marketing, and improving our public relations. All of these items require relationship building within our department and also creating the best practices that are specifically geared towards the city of Antioch. With over 4,000 Antioch-based business licenses, we need to categorize them and provide appropriate levels of support to them. The proposed staffing position would provide assistance in maintaining employer and property database systems, keeping track of contracts and agreements that are associated with economic development, related items, as well as ongoing citywide marketing efforts, keeping all economic development, marketing, and tourism websites current, as well as provide social media support. Thank you for this opportunity to present my staffing requests, and I am here for any questions.
Questions, comments? Councilmember Wilson.
Yes, thank you for your report, Kwame, about economic development, and you've given us a lot of information. So I have a couple questions for you. You kind of gave your mission, but it was a little muddied. Can you kind of talk more about the mission and where and how do you see, how do you see your department going forward, like going into the future?
Well, there's a lot of reports and data that's out there that we need to obtain. As you know, we have not had an economic development director and or department per se for at least the last 10 years. So there's a lot of data that's out there kind of in the ether that we need to collect. So with that data, there's going to be opportunities within hopefully the budget. Like I said, ideally I would like to present the budget first and then kind of go into this, but since you're asking kind of like where the goals are, I envision creating employment centers throughout the city. Right off the bat, I think there's about 4 or 5 that we need to try to target. And of course, not targeting all of them in the first 2 years of the budget cycle, but really spacing it out based on what our staffing levels are currently. So once we have those employment centers, we would do ideally is economic development specific plans, if you will. That's where we look at an area and really try to design that area around the jobs that we want to see in that area versus leading predominantly with planning first and zoning and those type of things. So that would be the one of the visions that we have for economic development is creating employment centers and really figuring out how we can get companies either through business attraction or business expansion into those areas.
Okay, so you talk about the employment centers and data in particular. So going back to the data, can you talk more about what you want to achieve with that? Like once you have this data, obviously you're taking us somewhere.
Yeah. Well, obviously with the data that we collect, we would then be able to target whether it's a business attraction or business expansion. I think it's you can't go somewhere if you don't know what you have, and that's we're at an opportunity, or we're at a position right now where we don't know all the data that we have right now. For example, like I said, we have over 4,000 business licenses that are Antioch-based business licenses. Some of those are home occupation permits. Some of those might not be current, but through collecting the data and working with the finance department on the business license database, we want to bring that information to a point where we can actually use it. So I really can't give you more than that, but it's really like we need to start from square one and then build from there.
Okay, I may have questions later.
Mayor Pro Tem Motz.
Thank you, Kwame. You talk about employment centers, you said 4.
Mm-hmm. Well, roughly 4 to 5. I mean,
You're envisioning, right. And
Yes.
so can you tell us what those are and what would be your top priority?
My top priority, no, this is not the council's top priority. So my top priority would be looking at the area that's above the J.C. Penney's area. I believe that's called the East Lone Tree Specific Plan Area. I identified that because it has freeway visibility. Utilities are already stubbed into that area, and it's flat. Bringing some type of employment center into that area seems like it would be, I won't say easy because that's not really easy, but that would be more attractive, I think, than some of the other areas that we have. The second area of focus that I want to focus on within like the first year of my budget would be the area that's around the BART station. This kind of jumped in my priority level with the recent passing of the, I believe it was SB 2923 from BART. We want to make sure that we have a plan in place before they come in with multifamily housing and things like that in that area. So we want to make sure we have employment and jobs factored into that. Now I do know and realize that there will be some housing and residential associated with that area. We just want to make sure that we lead that area with more jobs than housing.
Kind of a TOD kind of concept, is that what you're
It's a TOD kind of type of concept, but I mean, there's also definitely a real good opportunity of reverse commute. The BART trains have to come back to this area empty, so we need to make sure that we can either create these employment centers to bring people in. As you know, or you may not know, we have about 90% of our workforce is commuting out daily. Ideally, we would like to tap into that number, but the other part of that is we need to bring people in because, as you know, people spend money where they work, and so if we can bring more people back. If we bring more people into Antioch, that's also improving our economy. So the BART station gives a real good opportunity for that reverse commute and bringing people out. The other areas of focus would be Summersville and then also the Wilbur Avenue corridor. So those will be in probably in year 2 of my 2-year budget. So as I said, those are kind of like the employment areas that I've kind of envisioned thus far. More might surface as we develop more data and kind of realize where the financial strengths are in different parts of the city. But those are the ones right off the top.
And you say in your, it says here that you want to increase your budget allocation by $853,000 over the current year. So what is your current budget? I wasn't prepared for that question. I believe my current budget is probably around $300,000, 200 to 300,000. A lot of that has existing contracts that were in place prior to me being hired. But the numbers that you see there would encompass marketing efforts, rebranding efforts. That's the majority of that number. Okay, so that includes the cost of the marketing, the rebranding, and some of the stuff we're doing.
That does include that.
With Viva and.
Yes,
okay.
And the Orange 22, the purchasing of the media, a lot of that is within that those numbers there. Also, I mean, I can see it's also in my budget would be And no, this has not been approved. We're still working on it at the staff level, but I also have information in there for doing a P-bid at the Summersville area, ongoing contracts that we have with different firms that handle our redevelopment properties, the disposition of those, the corridor studies, as I mentioned. So we have the East Lone Tree, Hillcrest, Wilbur corridor, and then also the waterfront. Existing or economic development related marketing, that's kind of, it's a byproduct of what's going on with the Viva, but it's something that would be more targeted to those industries once we collect the data and know who we need to go out and attract. So there's a lot in the budget that I said, I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage because I'm asking for staffing before you can see the method to my madness.
Okay, so I just want to clarify again. So this does include costs that would be for our branding effort
Yes, it does.
for the next year,
For the next 2 years.
2 years. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Thorpe.
Yeah, I just have a few questions. So the current budget, this estimated 300,000, that's your salary, Lizette's salary, and then the remaining is contracts specifically for what?
I will say the current budget, I know it's more than 300,000.
Okay.
I don't
Oh.
have the exact number. I'm sorry, we didn't bring that tonight. We didn't realize that would think that as a byproduct of the question. But the 853,000 is beyond what's already in the current year budget for David Kippen Services and the Orange Company. So it's additional items that would be requesting to grow his program.
Okay.
But he's probably more his budget's probably more in the $1 million in total with the salaries of him and the other staff member. Plus there's approximately about 400,000 in marketing that's been approved already by the city council. It's some other contracts in the way. So
Okay.
the 853 brings it closer to the 2 million, probably a little
Yeah.
bit less. I can't remember the numbers exactly off the top
No,
of my
I-
head, but just to give you a ballpark to
Thank you,
clarify.
thank
So
you.
then
No, that's
I can
that's
pass that back
great.
over to Kwame.
Yeah, thank you. No, I look at my budget. I really don't look at the staffing, so I do apologize for that.
No
I
worries.
was only looking at
It's just,
the one
with
section
with
where
the
we have
contracts,
operations.
with the branding and whatnot,
Yeah.
300,000 plus staff, this didn't make any.
Did not make it. You're
So with that,
correct.
thank you,
So,
Don,
thank
for
you, Don.
that. So can I just ask a little? So this is, we're going through this wish list, and so I just want to go back to help me understand your current workload and priorities as it relates to the two of you, two staff members. What are your current priorities?
A big chunk of our time is definitely going towards the media, overseeing the media, looking at social media elements. The Antioch on the Move is also, we're responsible for that. And then also going through and trying to obtain the data and do economic development related items. So I'm not sure how to answer that any more than that, but a lot of our time is spent right now on the marketing.
Okay, and so can you help me differentiate your role and our economic development manager's role within these priorities?
Well, what will happen is essentially the two of us will create programs. She will then work on.
So I'm talking currently.
Yeah, no, currently,
Okay.
yeah, currently, yeah. It's just two of us. So Lizette and I we work on developing some programs. A lot of the programs that we need to bring forward have not been budgeted, so a lot of this is preparing us for the next fiscal year. But when we have those programs in place, then we will actually go through and she will run those programs. That's a program manager. My job is also to go out and meet with businesses a lot, so I'm going out and making phone calls and improving our relationships with existing companies and trying to go out and attract new companies. A lot of our work is also dealing with improving our regional relationships as well with the 4 cities, as well as coordination efforts with regional organizations that exist in the Bay Area. So that's really where a lot of our time is spent, but a good chunk of it right now is spent on marketing and rebranding.
Okay. And I went with you on a business trip down to Oakland, so I'm glad you mentioned that because I know you're doing some of that, or a lot of that, and in essence it was around cannabis. So that being said, so this new position, so I get Lizette is really a projects manager,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then, if we have you internally here, we don't then have you out there building the relationships that we need, which is what specifically your role was designed to do. So now this new position, what is that position? This wish list position?
The analyst position would be the person that would oversee the contracts and agreements that we would be setting up. Because right now, a lot of the contracts that we work on right now are either established by myself and then are implemented into the system by Lizette, by the programs manager. And I'm envisioning that this analyst would be the person that would actually monitor the contracts, making sure that people are paid, making sure that things are processed the right way, giving both Lizette and I time to actually do program and project related items versus some of the more technical stuff or items. This person would also be in charge of maintaining our databases with the properties and the employers. Like I said, with over 4,000 business licenses at this time, I don't have the ability to go into that system to determine a specific type of business. We are looking at purchasing different type of CRM, so customer relation management type of software systems that would allow us to basically work smarter and not harder, and having that ability to keep that database going. So this staff person would help us maintain the databases. This person would also help us maintain the existing and future websites that we look to create.
So, and this is just a comment, so not a question. So I value all of that because I agree. We have tons of data that we may or may not collect, and if we collect, we may or may not use it to inform our decision-making process. So I certainly appreciate that. What is so this is an analyst position. What is before an analyst internally in terms of the salary schedule?
Are you talking a step below?
Yeah.
There is an administrative assistant position, and I believe there's different levels of that, like a junior, a senior. I'm not sure of the salary differential between that. Obviously, it's less than administrative analyst, but
I'm not looking for the salary difference. I'm just trying to understand the differential in job description. And so, but when you talked about contracts, and then you talked about an
the
administrative
analyst does have
assistant, would
more
not.
of a technical, requires more of a technical background and job skills versus
Right.
an assistant.
Okay, thank you.
So great question so far. Thank you, fellow council members. So for the 853,000, you've put it in here, but we don't really see a breakdown of it. Is there a point at which during the budget process we kind of see that breakdown so that, or is it kind of a take it or leave it?
When we do come back in April and we start discussing the general fund budget, we will be presenting to the council, here is existing staffing funding going forward budget. Here is all the staffing requests that you guys are okay that we incorporate into the budget, and these are the additional costs, expanded costs to do that staffing, plus it'll outline Kwame's in particular, what makes up his extra ask up to that dollar amount. He can give more specific detail on what it, because that is a large amount, so that'll be presented in April.
Okay. If there's nothing further, Mayor Pro Tem Motz.
So when I think of what I would like you to be doing is that you're not here, you're out there, you're out talking to people, forming relationships, business retention, new business, all of that. So is this administrative analyst position going to help you do that?
Yes.
That's what I want to hear.
Okay.
Kwame, thank you.
Thank you.
And now that